You're back with me, and we're jumping straight into the three biggest pieces of noise the Cowboys are having to deal with right now. Trade chatter about a young edge rusher, Jerry Jones publicly grading his front seven and calling out the linebackers, and the messy, ongoing Trevon Diggs situation that spilled into Micah Parsons' remarks. I want to get you up to speed fast, and then break down what actually matters for this season and beyond. Because a lot of the headlines are loud, but the real decisions are quietly critical. If you're new here, hit subscribe. We're pushing for 16,000 subscribers, and every new sub makes a difference. Also, tap that like button now so this video climbs the list. We're in a like race, and your click helps us win. First up, the trade buzz. You heard it in the clip. Teams have been making calls about a certain Giants edge, names getting bandied about, and the Cowboys being mentioned as a potential suitor. The way the source framed it is important. Jerry's been putting out the message that Dallas is deep at the edge in terms of numbers, but that's not the same as saying they're deep in quality. The host made the point perfectly. Having 6 bodies who can nominally rush the passer isn't the same as having 3 true difference makers. So when trade rumors flare up, the first thing you should think is this. Are the Cowboys trying to add a top-level guy to replace missing quality? Or are they hearing offers and just doing homework? That matters, because it changes what they'd be willing to give up. Now, a quick reality check on the trade cost. The clip talked about team control and how the Giants aren't eager to move the player. They picked up the extra year option, and they don't need to trade him. Translation: if he were available, the price would be steep. The host said it could easily be a third, maybe a first. So the Cowboys aren't just shopping for talent. They're weighing whether giving up draft capital or young players like Sam Williams makes sense for a single-season upgrade. There's no shame in wanting to chase an upgrade, but you also can't mortgage the next 2 years of cap and picks for a short-term fix. Before we leave the headlines, let's flag the tone Jerry set on the linebackers and how that ties to the pass rush conversation. He openly criticized the linebackers for gap play and discipline, which is a public nudge from ownership that those spots are being watched. That matters to you because even if the Cowboys add another edge, if the linebackers can't hold the second level, pressure alone won't solve everything. It's all linked: front four, second-level discipline, scheme tweaks, and Jerry bringing that up on the radio means the front office can't ignore it. Finally, the Diggs element. It's not just an injury update. The clip calls this a relationship problem, with fines, rehab disagreements, and Micah Parsons very publicly saying he felt Diggs was mistreated. That's social friction. Teammates and coaches having different perspectives has real playoff game consequences. If Diggs is the best CB on paper, but the relationship is fractured, you have to weigh production versus culture. In short, everything we'll dig into next – trade feasibility, draft alternatives, short-term fixes – is colored by those relationships. Quick engagement. Type your vote in the comments now. Trade if you want the Cowboys to go all in on a proven pass rusher this season. Or draft if you'd rather. The Cowboys protect picks and target the edge in the draft. Also tell me one name you'd be willing to give up a third-round pick for. I'm reading the comments, and I'll highlight the best ones in the next video. Alright, that sets the table. When it comes to adding another edge rusher, it's easy to get caught up in the hype of names floating around the league. The clip highlighted this perfectly. Media outlets were calling about Max Crosby, Trey Hendrickson, and then there's Kayvon Thibodeaux. But here's the key point. Availability doesn't mean affordability. Teams like the Giants have control and leverage. Thibodeau, for instance, is under contract through next year with his fifth-year option picked up. They aren't desperate to move him, which immediately pushes his asking price high. The host said it could easily be a third-rounder at minimum, maybe even a first. So the Cowboys aren't just shopping for talent. They're weighing whether giving up draft capital or young players like Sam Williams makes sense for a single-season upgrade. Now let's talk about quality versus quantity. Jerry Jones claimed the Cowboys are deep at edge, but the transcript points out a critical nuance. Having 6 guys who can rush the passer doesn't equate to having 6 guys who create consistent pressure. Dante Fowler leads the team in total pressures and pressure rate, Donovan Ezra is trending up, and James Houston converts pressures to sacks efficiently. But he isn't on the field enough to make a difference week in and week out. Sam Williams is producing but hasn't lived up to his ceiling, and Marshawn Kneen has been a disappointment, mostly due to injuries. So when you see depth, read between the lines. The team has bodies, but not consistent high-impact play. That's why the Thibodeau chatter exists. Let's get concrete. What would a trade for Thibodeau cost Dallas? As the host explained, the Cowboys would owe the prorated veteran minimum for the rest of the season, plus $4.75 million, guaranteed in 2026 as part of the fifth-year option. The Giants, however, don't need to trade him, so if they did, it's going to be expensive. You can offer Sam Williams plus a fourth-round pick, but that doesn't even start to move the needle in the Giants' eyes. The takeaway? If Dallas wants him, they'll have to make a high-value offer, possibly involving first-round capital, which is never a light decision. Another point from the clip that's critical for you as a fan. Thibodeau isn't a top 5 pass rusher, and probably not even top 10, but he's young, productive, and under team control. That makes him a value add if you can afford him. The real debate is whether the Cowboys see immediate win-now value or long-term roster construction as the priority. It's a balancing act. Adding a mid-tier edge could shore up the pass rush, but at what cost to future flexibility? That's the calculation Jerry and the front office are quietly making. Let's make this interactive. Type in the comments whether you'd trade Sam Williams plus a fourth-rounder for Thibodeau, yes or no, and tell me why in one line. Do you prioritize immediate pressure, or do you protect the future draft capital? I want to see how Cowboys fans weigh this trade versus drafting their own edge next year. Also, don't forget to like this video to help us win the monthly like race, and hit subscribe if you haven't already. It's free, and it keeps you in the loop on every Cowboys move. Trevon Diggs isn't just a name on the injury report. He's become a focal point for a lot of frustration and questions about the Cowboys' handling of their roster. His history is complicated. A foot fracture back in 2020, an ACL tear in his left knee in 2023, another knee surgery in 2024, and now an undisclosed issue with his right knee, not to mention a concussion or two along the way. On top of that, he pushed to return earlier than the team wanted for the season opener. From the outside, it looks like a player battling to contribute, but the organization sees risk, and that tension has fueled a lot of chatter. Micah Parsons' public comments added fuel to the fire. He was very vocal, saying, "I feel like they effed my dog over," pointing to Diggs being rushed back without proper reps in training camp. Parsons' voice matters because he's close to Diggs. They've been best friends since Dallas. So when he says it, there's a high likelihood Diggs feels similarly. It's one thing for the team to critique a player behind closed doors, but when a teammate goes public, it magnifies the drama. According to the transcript, Calvin Watkins pointed out that Diggs may have missed some treatment sessions, which the team used as justification for fines and benching. On the other hand, Diggs' early return shows his commitment and willingness to play, making this a nuanced situation. What does this mean for Dallas moving forward? First, from a performance perspective, Diggs is one of the team's top corners when healthy. His absence or limited play has real consequences for secondary coverage and man-to-man matchups. Second, from a culture perspective, the friction is palpable. Front office, coaching staff, and teammates have all had points of tension with Diggs over rehab, communication, and expectations. Finally, from a strategic perspective, the Cowboys have to weigh the cost of keeping him on the roster against potential trade options or long-term cap flexibility. Though no team is lining up to acquire a hurt, expensive cornerback. Here's where you come in. I want you to weigh in with a quick comment. Who's more at fault in the Diggs drama? D for Trevon Diggs or C for the Cowboys? Just one letter, D or C. And if you want, add a line about why you chose that side. I'm tracking these, and we'll discuss the most compelling takes in the next video. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you haven't yet. Keeping up with Diggs' story and all Cowboys news is easier when you're part of the crew. Jerry Jones didn't hold back when it came to calling out the linebacker play against the Broncos. And honestly, he was right. He pointed to poor gap discipline, missed assignments, and the inability to maintain structural integrity in the second level. Linebackers are the connective tissue between the defensive line and the secondary. If they fail to hold gaps, even a strong pass rush can be neutralized. The Cowboys need better performance from this unit. It's not just about talent. It's about consistency, communication, and understanding roles week in and week out. Currently, the linebacker room is a mixed bag. Names like Maris Lee, Fowle, Murray, and James were mentioned, and the analysis points to a significant gap in reliability. Some veterans are inconsistent. Some young players are still adjusting to NFL speed. You can't rely on players to suddenly perform at a high level after coming off injuries or limited reps. This is the same challenge that ties into the edge discussion. Even if Dallas adds a pass rusher like Thibodeaux, if the linebackers fail to fill gaps, the pressure doesn't translate into turnovers or sacks. It all works together, and Jerry calling this out publicly signals urgency. The front office and coaching staff know they have to act. Now, what are the options for the Cowboys? Jerry hedged when asked about a linebacker trade. Not necessarily, not at all, but possibly. That's as close to "we're exploring" as you'll get without committing publicly. The realistic path is a combination of shoring up depth in season, potentially exploring trade options, and targeting high-quality linebackers in the draft. The challenge is balancing short-term fixes versus long-term development. Do you push a veteran into a bigger role now, or do you draft a prospect and develop him over time? That's the strategic decision Dallas faces, and fans should pay attention to both angles. Here's another fan engagement point. If you could force the Cowboys front office to make one move immediately, what would it be? Pick one. A. Trade for a top edge rusher. B. Trade for a linebacker. C. Use draft capital in the first round. Or D. Do nothing and rely on development. Drop your choice in the comments, and if you want, add a line explaining why. Finally, let's tie it all together. The pass rush, secondary health, and linebacker consistency are all interlinked. Fixing one area without addressing the others only produces partial results. The takeaway here is that the Cowboys are facing a multifaceted defensive challenge: injuries, inconsistent production, and public friction among key players. Solving it requires careful planning. Trades, development, and smart cap management all have to be considered. As fans, it's both exciting and stressful to watch, because every decision now impacts the team's competitiveness this season and beyond. Before we wrap up, remember to like the video to help the channel in the monthly like battle and hit subscribe if you haven't already. This keeps you updated on every trade rumor, injury development, and insider take from Cowboys News TV. And don't forget to drop your thoughts on the linebacker situation. I'll highlight the best comments in the next breakdown.